Hello there and welcome back into the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. I'm your host, Sam Hind, and today I'm joined by a very special guest that I feel very privileged to be able to introduce you to. I'm very passionate about powerful women in business, and most particularly, I'm very passionate about women who go for what they believe in, who are resilient and against all odds, get back up, brush themselves off, and keep chasing their dreams. And this amazing individual is one of those people. Today, I get to introduce you to Jessica Kiely. Jessica is the co-founder of a natural perfume company, Sensor.I.am, and she's going to tell you all about this. But what I am so excited to share with you is her backstory. I met Jessica many years ago when we were going through speakers training. Jessica is now a keynote speaker. She's also been through the ups and downs of business. She's had challenges with partners in business. She's had challenges with having to pivot her business. And most importantly, one of the things that Jessica is a powerhouse at doing is working out what her unique selling proposition is and rolling with that and rolling with it hard. I am so excited to share with you the journey she's currently on. And I know that you're going to find her empowering, inspiring, and a breath of fresh air to listen to. So I'm going to hand over to her now and introducing the amazing Jessica Kiely, co-founder of Sensor.I.am. Hello there and welcome back into the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. My name is Sam and I am so excited to be joined by a very special friend that I have not seen for a very long time, but I'm super excited to reconnect with the beautiful Jessica Kiely. Welcome on in, Jessica.
Thank you, Sam, for having me.
Now, I've already told our guests just a little bit about you, Jessica, but we obviously had, and I'm going to say it would have been, we had the opportunity to meet maybe 5 or 6 years ago now. I don't know if time's flown. It might be longer. But I got the opportunity to meet you at the Speakers Institute. As many of our listeners know, before I started professionally keynote speaking, I did some training with the amazing Sam Cawthorn, and I met you at one of the workshops that we did in Sydney and got to hear all about your amazing business. And I've had the pleasure of watching your journey over the years through social media, and we've connected from time to time. And I know that a lot of our listeners, as also solopreneurs and business owners themselves, you know, in whatever shape or form that looks like, often feel like they are completely on their own in this. And I've been able to watch you go through those ebbs and flows and do some amazing things along the way. So I'm super keen to talk to you today. Before we get into all of that, though, can you tell us a little bit about your co-founder now of Sensor.I.am? Mm-hmm. I know a little bit about this business, but I'm really excited for you to share just a little bit about your journey with our listeners and the amazing business that you are in today.
Thank you, Sam. Yes, the evolution of life that we've ebbed and flowed together along the way, and where I'm at this particular chapter. Yes, Sensor.I.am is an online natural perfumery. So basically, we specialize in 100% natural luxury perfumes from around the world and get them out to people who are really interested in making that switch from a commercial fragrance for whatever reason. Sometimes that's health. Sometimes it's pregnancy or trying to get pregnant, or an interest in this new area of natural perfume. And we've put together a really great collection of those. Very discerning collection, I would say. Yes.
And I love this because you've taken something that is a very sensory thing, a very, hence the name, I guess, but something that we associate needing to be in person to experience. And you've taken it online. Now, I think this is amazing because we've got a lot of our listeners, as you know, are in direct selling. So they've got party plan, network marketing, and MLM businesses.
Mm.
Many of them work with products that are very similar to this in that they are sensory products. So whether it's fragrance based or whether it is color based, so skincare or makeup products, things that people really feel that they are up against it when they have to go into an online space. You've actually voluntarily said, I'm going to go online with something that is a sensory based item. So can you just talk through this and what your thinking was when it came to, hey, you know what, I'm going to take something that people need to experience in person normally, or they think they do,
Yeah.
and I'm going to jump online with this.
Yeah, it's an interesting one when a little bit of hindsight, you're like, yeah, that was really interesting, Jessica. What was happening there?
Yeah.
I guess partly it was our times in that we are all online and you have access to a greater community, world, etc., at your fingertips when you take it online. But it also meant that it was going to push us to find a new way of helping people to experience it. And one of the main reasons why I sort of started it, because it was a seed that looked a little different to what it is now, sort of 3 or 4 years ago, and it has evolved over time because it was just a side hustle for a little while, and then it's really moved into something more full-time. And it's that idea of it's really hard to find good natural perfume. So when you want to actually make the switch and you're interested in it, which I was my journey, I then had to go to the markets, or I had to jump online and do a whole lot of searching, or I had to go and find little far out places. And really a lot of it was actually online and I had to order it for myself. So I wanted to make that easier for people. I wanted so that the switch is easier, because that's one of my underlying values is for the environment, for the health of ourselves and the health of the planet. So how can I make this easier for people so more people are going to do it? So we had to do it online, and then that forced us to go, all right, how do we then become the best at selling perfume online? So that becomes the challenge, the entrepreneurial challenge in a way. And so now we're not completely losing the physical. That still is important. I have people come to my home and they do a sensory experience here. We're going to start doing pop-ups with some collaborators. We're not going to completely lose that at all, but we know that the main one and the main play is in that online environment. And how can we do that so that we have this co-sensory experience across the screen? The technology is now starting to be developed, though, where it will actually be able to come across your screen at the same time.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
They're working on it.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk a bit about the sensory experience in a minute, because I actually got the fantastic opportunity to have one of these with you yesterday, so I could have an idea of how you were doing this. And let's just face it, I love perfume. And one of the things we've talked about for years has been what is a natural alternative. So I want to really speak into that. But where my head goes with what you've been up to is sort of where I first met you and where you are today. When we first met, you back then were doing something really unique and really exciting, and you had the Wondrous Beauty boxes. Now, this was before, I'm going to say, and not speaking from experience here, you might be able to correct me on this, but before the box subscription box thing became a really big thing. You know, you've got subscription boxes everywhere now. There are sites you can go to literally look up subscription boxes of any description, from kids' toys to books to makeup and products and perfume, everything. But you were doing this back how many years ago now? 6, 7?
Yeah, at least. So I know 2016 was when the kernel of the seed of the idea happened, and then you take the year and a half to actually formulate it and pull it together anyway. So it's a little while now, but and you're right. For Australia, it was very early days for subscription boxes of any sort of kind. But what had happened was I had done a trip to New York. With my kids and had at the time, because I was interested in natural and started doing my own research and things, you go over to the US and there's already a lot of stuff happening. And I took myself along to some conferences that were on, beauty conferences and things like that, and felt completely out of my depth, of course. But there was a few little subscription boxes there at some of these things that I'd never heard of before and had never seen it as a model at all before. So that was then for me the way I was like, wow, okay, I can see how this will work as a model and as a way for people to explore the natural range, to give them. So Wondrous Beauty was all about a beauty routine in a box, but with different brands that were all 100% natural and curated in terms of what I'd done in the research. And there were those sample sizes so that people could then explore and see which one worked for them to make that switch out a whole lot easier. So that's, that sort of journey there of traveling, seeing something, how it could work, bringing it here were the early days for me.
Yeah. And, I subscribed to one of these boxes. I had it coming to my doorstep for a long time and I loved it. It was an amazing way to experience products. I thought, what an amazing concept. And the thing was that I could see your passion in it because you were really passionate and still are obviously about natural health. So, people's environment, what they're putting on their body. I've heard you speak a number of times about this and the importance of this. And our listeners have heard me, speak about this with various guests that have come in. But the thing that I love is that you went, okay, this is a thing that I'm doing because I want to find a way to get these natural products into people's hands and let them try. And I really felt as well that it was also a passion to support those businesses that were going out of their way to create these products too. Would that be fair to say?
Correct, for sure. Yes.
So in doing this, now you're not doing that anymore. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what that journey was for you and what happened and what changed?
Yeah. So I always believe that everything happens for a reason. And on that particular journey, one, I learned a huge amount about the natural space and made a lot of connections because every one of those companies we then had to meet and create those connections and relationships with. But what I could start to see that was in order to turn the boxes into a more scalable business, it was going to require that I would sell the full sizes because you were all getting samples in those boxes, but that was it. And people kept saying to me, so when I want to buy from you now, because you've brought me in on this box experience, I want to purchase the full size. And and e-commerce at that time wasn't so easy to set up. Shopify was not the way it is now. And the idea of doing that, it just felt a little bit too big for me at that particular time. My business partnership at the time wasn't really working out either with that particular business. So that affected the inspiration, the drive, the passion to whether you're going to put this next lot of energy into it. Yep. But what I did see along that journey when we put together one of the very last boxes was a natural perfume box. And it was the one where people were really interested and they were like, oh my gosh, I never even knew that there was this thing called natural perfume. Whereas your skincare, your beauty, everyone had really started to get to know that. So that was for me where the little light bulb goes on and says, okay, what's smart is to specialize here rather than trying to be another Flora and Fauna, another Nourish Life, because there's some really great sites out there now that do a lot of those natural products. How about we really hone it down and focus and get really good at this one area and own that area, that there's not a whole lot in yet. It's not as well known and it still aligns with my passions and my values and how I live. And let's own that space.
I love that. What a great concept. And I just want to touch on that for a second because we talk a lot about niching down on your audience, but what you've actually said is I'm going to go further and niche down on the product. So it's not that you're not passionate about and can't source these other products, but it is I'm listening to what people are saying, my tribe, and that's the clear thing here, your people are saying to you. And that is, and I remember having the conversation with you. It's actually quite funny because before all this happened, while I was getting these boxes and right as we had started connecting, I remember reaching out to you saying, hey, Jessica, can you help me with some natural perfume? Because one of my very favorite luxuries that I love and always have loved is perfume. However, I am married to a man who can't. He gets quite hay fevery and upset with chemical based perfume. And at first, I didn't understand why. Obviously, I've got a much better understanding of it now. But in our early stages of our relationship, had to stop using perfume because he just couldn't handle it, and he couldn't be around me if I was wearing it. So, which for some people, they're like, well, that at times could be a blessing, but other times not so much.
Yeah.
So I remember reaching out to you saying, how do I have the best of both worlds? Is there a way that you can help me find some perfume that's natural, that doesn't upset him, so I can still wear perfume? And at the time, I remember you saying, hold that thought, I'm looking into it. So I love the fact that you've niched down not just on your audience, but your product. And the reason I want to bring this in here is because we've got people who are very, very blessed to be able to be in a business that they haven't had to do all of the running around to set up. So they get to come into a company that's already done the marketing for them. They've already got all of the product created, ready to go. And for a minimal fee, they can jump in, start their own business and sell these products. The issue I see is that a lot of them they'll be given a full range that they can sell. And they come in and they go, well, I can sell everything, so I will sell everything to everybody. And I just want to encourage people to listen into what Jessica is saying there, which is that you've also got really clear about which product your people are asking for as well. Now, can you talk a little bit about, yes, you had that box with the perfume that was your starting point. I know you're a researcher, and I'm pretty sure you didn't leave it at that and go, right, great, okay, I'm going to just fully go into perfume. What did you do next to then ensure that this was a direction that you should be investing your time and money into?
Yeah. So obviously, then you have to start seeing, is there a market? Are people sort of looking for it? So I started my first business when I was 19. So I've been doing this for a long time now in terms of, all right, by that time, I now know I need to go and start looking at search volumes in SEO, right? You go onto Google, and you whether you've got a Google account or not, there's various ways now where you can find out search volume. That gives you a good indication of what are people searching for, what parts of the world are they searching for it, what sort of volumes are there. That gives you a kind of a good indication. Then it's starting to look for, in my particular case, is there enough product in a way? Because, okay, I want to specialize in natural perfume, but is there actually enough good brands to actually represent? Because you can get, little natural perfume blends, little essential oil blends and things like that at your local markets. But I wanted it to be, the same as if you were getting some of your luxury perfumes. So the bottle, the look, the aesthetic, the founders, all of it is part of the experience of perfume. So there was research into, okay, well, what sort of brands are out there here in Australia, overseas, and even in the sort of 3 years of doing this and looking in natural perfume, you can start to see the growth, because at the beginning 3 years ago, not so many brands, and now all of a sudden there's some really incredible brands coming, and the quality is lifting in that area. So it's researching that side of things. So really, to me, it was just about search volume. What were my customers telling me that they were really interested in and struggling with? What problem? How big is the problem? How much are they feeling that problem? To then go, and really I only need, I think, probably about 30% of that to be pushing me in the right direction. Then there's another at least 30 to 40% that's instinct and kind of going, am I willing to do this? Is this something that I'm willing to put my time and effort into? And the rest is faith.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And that's so true though, right? Now, Jessica, I want to talk to you about the uniqueness of each of your businesses in a moment. But I just want to talk about the ups and downs. You've been in business since you were 19. You've had multiple businesses over that time, and I've watched you go through challenges and continue to get back up and say, what am I learning? What am I learning? What am I learning? But can you just share a little bit about what those ups and downs have looked like for you? And, you know, I guess where I'm going with this is I want our listeners to hear that it's not all ups and it's not all cruising. And I know that you've had some of those challenges along the way. So would you mind just sort of sharing us what that journey has looked like for you?
Sure. It's definitely not all ups. Otherwise, I'd be on the highest of mountains of everyone right now.
Yep.
And I have very many friends who are also running their own business and have done for a very long time and seen very much the ups and downs and that are inevitable in this sort of a journey. I mean, at the very beginning, the being so young and naive, you make a whole lot of mistakes along the way, but they're smaller ones because you don't have as much money to spend.
This is true. Yeah.
When you get a little bit older.
It probably still felt as big though, right? Because $100 to someone who only has $200 feels about as big as someone who's only got $1 million and spends that, right? So it's all relative.
All relative. So I've had business partnerships that haven't quite worked out. And pretty much at the end of each of those chapters has been a moment where I can make the decision, do I keep going or not? There's been many, 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 many times where I'm like, why don't I just go and get a job? Why don't I just go and I picked up the paper and started looking in the old days when there was the paper. Oh my God.
Yeah. I'm so feeling you with this. I've been there, done that so many times.
You just pull it out or you put on to Seek, all right, facilitator job, speaking job, because that's what I do. I do it really well. It's easy. Let's just have a look and see. And I probably put through a few applications for jobs, but haven't even really got call-ups for them. But each of those times you make that sort of cross moment and you go, no, actually, I've still got the fire. I've got the fire inside. I'm not finished yet. This hasn't been finished yet, right, to myself. So, all right, okay, I'll get up and keep going. But the biggest one was when my marriage fell apart and I had a 4-year-old and a 9-month-old baby. Now, I wasn't running a business during that period of time of having small children. So from the birth of my first, I do remember being in the ward after having given birth with my first child and taking a call for an interview because I was still running my business at that time.
Oh, gosh. Yep.
Helping other young entrepreneurs. We were all about inspiring young entrepreneurs, and so they wanted to know about what young entrepreneurs are. And I was taking the call after giving birth. But once I got into motherhood and things, it was something I just wanted to go full into, and so very much took those 3 or 4 years off. But when my marriage fell apart, that was a really hard moment where I had felt that anything that I'd achieved previously in business had amounted to nothing in a way. I felt like a complete failure because here I am. Wasn't this supposed to be something that was forever and easy in a way and all full of ups, of course? Isn't that what marriage is? And also had an ex-husband or husband at the time who was an exceptionally gifted and successful entrepreneur. And as the high achiever that I am, I did all of the comparison. Yeah. Oh, he's smarter than me and is better at business than me. It's not for me anymore. Look after the kids and get a job, Jessica. And to the point where I'd been speaking on stages for a long time previously and I could not even get up and speak on a stage. Couldn't even find my voice enough to do something like that. But once I had made my way through that real murkiness of needing to do the separation parts, which that was a whole challenge to itself, and I learned a lot about myself. It then helped to catalyze going into a lot of the personal development stuff and my spiritual development stuff. And I remember during that period, I saw a YouTube video of Gary Vaynerchuk. Yes. And it was this piece where he sort of literally, it felt like he was speaking to me, but he wasn't. He said, if you're, in your 40s, and I was just about to sort of hit my 40s, if you're in your 40s, it's not over because, yes, you may not know social media and things like that, but you've got experience, you've got networks, you've got job history that these kids don't have, et cetera, et cetera. And it was just one of those moments where it's like, yeah, you know what? I'm not finished yet.
I love that.
And so I can learn those things. Sure, I can learn those things. And yeah, I know people and I can. So over those next few years, I did a lot of study. That's where I went deep into the natural things because my life had sort of sent me in that direction as well. And I could start to see the opportunities again. So my brain starts firing up again. And then that's where Wondrous Beauty sort of came out of from there. So I guess it's each time asking myself the question, am I done yet? No. All right. Guess what? You're getting back up again.
That's amazing. And I'm so glad that you shared that story. I know I've heard that story previously, and I found it so incredibly inspiring. The first time I heard that story was not long after I'd gone through my own separation and was going through that journey myself. So it was really amazing to hear from somebody. And I know some of our listeners out there right now are probably feeling that sense of I'm too old, or I've just been left behind, or it's too late for me. And I just love that concept of, am I done? No, I've still got a fire in my belly. I'm going to keep going. But you applied one thing to that really resonates with me here, and I just want to really point this out. And that was, you didn't do what you thought you needed to do. You had a fire in your belly to serve, but you went out and you found out what your audience wanted. And you really focused on what their needs were. So you didn't do okay, I love natural beauty, and so I'm just going to ram it down everyone's throats how much they should also love it. You actually looked into how you could serve your audience and married that together with what you're also passionate about, and found that, I feel like you kind of found that middle ground that was right, I really believe in this and I'm meeting a need all at the same time. And you've looked at it from both angles, which is just so powerful. So I just want to really congratulate you on that, because I feel like that's quite a rarity that people really focus from both angles there, and you've done that. The other thing I really love, Jessica, and I also want to just bring this in here, is you recognize that you have all the people around you with the skill sets that you need. And I know that you lean in on that a lot, because one of the things that you and I actually were able to connect over in the early days was I wanted education on natural products, but you wanted education on social media. And so you sought that information out from me to get the help that you needed to help you in that space, instead of just saying, oh, well, I just don't know how to do it, so I'm just not going to, I'm going to hire somebody else. You actually educated yourself by leaning on others. I'm sure that you've done that in other areas of your life as well, or I should say not just with social media in your business. Are there some other spaces where you recognized, I don't have a skill in this space, I'm going to just seek it out right now and go find it?
Yeah, pretty much every single part of business. Like, what I'm good at is educating.
Yep.
In a really, a highly dynamic, engaging way. I can speak. I can educate. That's pretty much the thread that has gone through all of my businesses. The very first business was a tutoring business. The next one was a youth development and training business. So that's the skill I guess I come back and lean on. Everything else I've had to learn or find the people who can do it. And that I remember in my first business teaching myself MYOB. Compared to now, when you just set up zero and it's just there, and you find a great bookkeeper who sets it up. So
we
every
have some
element.
C-type personalities right now going, what's wrong with MYOB?
Oh, and great. That's your thing. And
You
they
enjoy
love
that.
it. They set up all of the little codes and things like that. But with perfume in particular, it's been a massive, massive learning curve. Massive learning curve. Because perfume is considered a dangerous good.
Is it really? I guess because it contains alcohol, right?
It contains alcohol, and so it is flammable. So do you know what degree or certificate I've just had to complete? I'm certified in dangerous goods transportation.
Oh, I love it. Put that one on your wall and frame it.
on my wall and frame it. I can't even. The book I had to like make my way through because it's not my genius of my business partner. Hers is the branding and the marketing and the social media, and that's her thing. Whereas sitting and like learning that stuff, I like the research. I actually like to learn those things. So it's almost everything from the web development and the user experience. Who knows about that? Let's go and learn from them. To the SEO, to the even this online virtual learning experience, etc. It's every element of it, and as much as possible, we try and find people who it's their thing, right? And they love to teach it or show you about LinkedIn at the moment, right? So LinkedIn is one of our key pillars in our marketing, we can see, because it is a whole lot more direct, but you get to build some personal brand within there. It's still quite white ocean in a way, in some areas too. So it's a key element of ours to always be learning from those who know how to do it rather than either not doing it, because you've got no option really these days. You can't not do it.
Yeah.
Or trying to then learn it to do it yourself. Because even I'm a big believer in, even if I have a digital marketing agency coming in and helping with it or the SEO, I need to understand some of the basics of it. I need to understand some of the fundamentals of it, because otherwise you don't know if they're just taking your money and not doing anything.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And such a big
you
thing.
can speak some of the language as well to be useful.
Yeah. And I do just want to remind people of the importance of that too. It's such a, I see so many people making that mistake where they go, okay, I don't understand, so I'm going to hire someone who does. But what are your key performance indicators to know that that person's actually doing a good job for you and your money's being well spent? So yeah, such an important one. Now, you've talked about partnership a couple of times. I know that you have had the ups and downs of partnership as well. What have you learned about forming a good partnership over the years, Jessica?
It's a really good question.
Ooh, it's a tough one too.
That's right. Because I've had a fair few now.
Yeah.
And I think now that I've done a fair bit of my own personal development as well, I was clearly not seeing a pattern in myself that had repeated and meant the same things were happening each time.
Yeah.
For me to now actually see that and do it differently this time around. So the self-awareness part in any partnership, this is the main thing you master is yourself.
Yes.
And learning and seeing your own patterns in order to have the best partnership. Same in marriage, of course, right? Yeah. So the most important element is the honesty from the get-go. In terms of what are you bringing into it? What are they bringing into it? That's not just their own skills, but money. You have to be able to talk about how much are you going to put into the business, how much, how long are you okay with not getting paid? Because that's the reality in the startup. Because everyone's got different financial circumstances as well, and unless you're super aware and honest about those things, that can get in the way. But it's also an understanding that partnerships are about there is an ebb and flow to it as well, and also there's a time at which it may end, and that's okay as well. But it's the real clarity early on: who's doing what, who's responsible for what, where does the money sit, and getting it formalized in an agreement is really important.
Yeah, awesome. And you touched on something there which I think is really important, really powerful, and I know that this is another whole conversation, but you talked about that self-awareness and cycles. We've talked a lot about cycles on this podcast. What, if you're happy to share, what are some of the strategies that you've used to help you with those? Because it's not just a matter of identifying, it's also a matter, right, of dealing with how you handle those cycles and what you do moving forward. And sometimes we need to get assistance and help to do that. Can you share, a little bit around, some of that discovery for you and how you've shifted that in, because you've gone into another partnership now, obviously, which is with this amazing new business, which I do encourage people to check out, and we will talk about it in a moment. But what have you done in that space to ensure that this business, you're all over it as far as those self cycles are concerned?
It's good. For me, my own personal self-development is actually an ongoing focus. Whereas before, it was really about professional development. Like, what other skills can I grow? What else am I able to do?
Yep.
Yeah. Whereas now the focus is who am I? Who am I being? Why do I do those things? And so it's a continual learning there. So that's everything from reading of books and the podcasts that you've probably heard a lot about through other guests on this channel as well. I learned from an incredible mentor, Pauline Newen, who is the spiritual entrepreneur, and follow a lot of her work, do a lot of work with her actually, and that has really helped for me to identify what were the programs that I was running.
Yep.
On default and unconsciously. And that was everything down to the conditioning we have around what marriage is and what it's supposed to be, and then what expectations that creates for yourself, and then the suffering when life doesn't live up to that expectation. Just all of those stories effectively that run our life we don't even realize. And how do I become aware of those? How do I then truly look at them and go, is that what I want or not? And making the choice. Is that is a continual and ongoing process. And so I have a particular fascination and love for quantum mechanics, the quantum field, and all that is spiritual, because the more I learn there, the more I see how beneficial it is to everything that I do in my life. And if you were to ask my ex-husband even, who I'm exceptionally good friends with, we were having dinner last night with our children after a school event, and that's, if you were to say from who I was before to who I am now, it's almost literally a whole different person.
Yeah.
Because of that work that's being done.
Yeah, so powerful. And I really, again, congratulate you on that ongoing learning. And I think any of our listeners right now that are going, yeah, cool, what? Because I've just sensed there'd be a few people going, okay, what did she do? Because I know there are cycles. I understand this. I've got that little piece of self-awareness now, but then it's another step to know what to do about it. And just a reminder that it is that ongoing process. You never actually have this nailed, but as long as you're always, I'm a big believer in when the student's ready, the teacher shows up. And there have been times in my life where I've gone, okay, cool. I identify something that I need some help with. And this is just a self-talk thing. I know this sounds a little bit, some people will be going, sounds really weird, but I kid you not, every time I have this conversation with myself, say, right, I'm aware that there's something going on here. I'm ready to learn, to understand, to take that next step and to challenge myself to move through that and past it and learn. Someone will show up in my world that's got that little piece of knowledge, and it may not be a teacher. It may just be somebody that you have a conversation with and they guide you towards a book or towards a podcast, or, you go, oh, right, okay, great. I'm going to jot that one down. And you've always got around you what you need at any given time in order to do what you need to do, learn what you need to do, be who you need to be. It's just whether or not your eyes are open to those things around you. And I can just sort of see that in those patterns with you as well, Jessica, where you've gone, great, okay, I need to learn social media. Who have I got around me? There's someone right here. Cool, I need to learn about, transporting dangerous goods. Awesome. I can do the learning to do that. I've got a book. So I think that's awesome. Now, there's so many questions I want to ask you, but I'm going to have to rein it in because otherwise we could be here for another hour and we don't have time for that. But I want to talk to you about the uniqueness of your businesses. One thing that's really stood out to me right from when I first met you to now is how you grab what your audience wants, what you're passionate about, and then you find your USP, your unique selling proposition in that. Now, with the business you have now, you are selling natural perfumes online. Now, first you go, okay, well, how on earth, because this is a converting people, right? So people that buy normal, commercial brands of perfume, and it's that shifting them towards something new, which is trying a natural perfume. So naturally, there's this question, which is, okay, well, how am I going to smell that so that I know what's going to suit me and work for me? Now, I asked you this question and you said, that's okay. We're going to have a sensory experience. And I'm thinking, how are we going to do that? online. And we did this yesterday, and I was blown away because through that experience, I was able to get a really good sense of which perfumes would be right for me and which ones I really wanted to try. And you then gave me an opportunity to just get some little 2 mils of those ones that we'd narrowed down to through asking very specific questions and going through some very interesting scenarios. And you're able to nail that down. And, I've now got some 2 mils on the way to try and then decide what my new perfume will be. But I just want to ask, how do you get there? Because you did this with Wondrous Beauty and we've heard about how you discovered the box concept. How did you get there with this? And you went, okay, here's going to be the thing. Here's the thing I'm going to do that's just different to everybody else. Was it conscious or accidental?
I think it's definitely a little bit of both. I mean, we were just talking about what you were talking about before is our continual conversation with the field, basically, the field of all possibility, and it resonates with us, and we have a thought, and now I'm ready to learn. It responds, and if we're open and aware and we see the message that comes in, it's there. So, and we co-create with that, right? So it's a little bit of both. It's a conscious and a faith piece in terms of it will start landing if you're ready to listen in. So as a speaker, presenter, facilitator, teacher of sorts, it is one of my more super instinctual powers of always be listening, always listening, always listening, always listening. So that when I'm speaking and presenting, it's never just always push. It's a continual two-way.
Yeah.
So that I have content I want to deliver to them, but I don't just then go, here it is. I have to respond to who's in front of me. I have to get them involved. I have to listen to what they're saying and how they're responding to it to then adapt what's this next part and how I bring it in and how do I connect it. So I think wiring wise, that's kind of wired there for me so that when I bring that into this sort of environment, I'm always listening. But also because, as you said before, I want to serve. So when people have a problem, I want to help and I want to solve it. But then I start going, well, if she's got that problem and I want to solve it, probably means more people have got that problem too. So that then helps to go, okay, how can I solve this problem in a way? But it's also experimenting with a few different ways. So there's an analogy that I use here now because I've started a new sport. So during lockdown, during a meditation,
I had yesterday.
Yeah, I had a vision of myself doing archery. And so I look up archery during lockdown because I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to do as soon as lockdown's finished. I'm going to take up a new sport. It's going to be archery. It's just up the road from me.
Oh, my goodness. Seriously?
I've never seen this before, and it's like just up the road from me.
Okay.
So as soon as it finished, I went up there. Anyway, there's this thing in archery where when you arrive and you get your gear all set up, your first few rounds, you're not worried at all about trying to get in the middle, right, straight in the middle of the target. You're interested in putting a few arrows down and seeing where the pattern is. Yeah, you want to group them in a way. If they're all landing in a similar area on the target, that's really good, even if it's not right in the middle, because what you've found is the pattern, and now you can adjust your scope to then get closer to the middle.
Yeah.
Right? So you've got to put enough experiments out there to start seeing, well, where is the grouping and the patterning before I then adjust my scope to then get it closer to the middle of the target. So with the perfume, it's been everything from inviting people into my home and having them actually smell the perfume and listening in. What are the problems? What are they interested in? What stands out for them? What questions do they want me to answer for them? Then it's just selling it online. And what emails do we get sent where people are like, do you have one that's like this? Or my wife's been told she can't wear perfume anymore by her doctor. Do you have something for da-da-da? Like all of those little bits of data come in. And then as you had your experience, that sort of the first time I did that with someone, it was literally just like, let's just give this a go and see. How does this go if I talk to someone about this over the internet while I'm smelling it and speaking to them? And they just loved the personal interaction and the storytelling and all of those types of things. So we've put enough experiments out in a way to start seeing where the grouping is to go, this is where the little pocket sits to now go, all right, let's put a bit more focus on this part. And how do we now optimize that experience and make it seamless and make it replicable in a way and then scalable eventually?
Oh, so powerful. I love that. What a little nugget of gold right there. I love that. So finding the patterns. And I love that you've really touched on the question asking process and the paying attention to the little things. But and awesome that you've taken up archery too. I saw a little video of that yesterday, and oh my goodness, she looks like a pro. What an interesting sport to just randomly decide to take up though.
It's the best. It's really it's completely random in a way, and something I would never have thought or seen myself doing. But the group of people who are at archery are super interesting. They're definitely those who they're not the rugby players and the cricketers or the netballers, etc. But they still love this idea of accuracy and a weapon, and there's so much we can learn from sport, and particularly I'm finding with archery from lessons for life.
Awesome. So good. And yeah, look, you've got an amazing story right there. So if nothing else, it's definitely served its purpose. For a keynote speaker, those sorts of stories are always very important, right?
Right.
So just really quickly, if we've got a listener right now who is wondering, what can I do to find out about my USP? How do I stand out? How do I make my business stand out? Particularly somebody who might sell a product that lots of other people sell. You know, do you have any advice that you would offer them? You know, maybe they're struggling in their business right now and they feel a bit stuck and they're just wondering how can they stand out and be a little bit different?
Two things come to mind is going and asking those people who you have worked with before in terms of either sold with before or keep coming back to you in a way, and asking them, what is it about? What I offer, how I do it, the experience you've had with me. And you need to ask that of enough people, a bit like, you know, throwing the arrows down. You need to ask that enough to then find the trends there. That's definitely one way. But the other way, where I got that idea of the subscription box, was travel. So it's stepping outside of your industry, your area, your whatever it might be. It's going and having those almost random, but not so random experiences that help you to see maybe something that someone is doing in the plumbing industry or boating. It might give you that way of going, if everybody else who's got the exact same products in a way are all doing reels. So this was the one I just saw the other day, Gary Vee saying YouTube shorts. Right? So it's like little things like that you go, everyone is on IG and etc. Or trying to jump into the TikTok. But, I've just heard Gary Vee, and, you know, his stuff usually then totally blows up.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe instead of that, I'm going to do a YouTube Shorts. That's just one example, right? It's more just one, asking directly those who've already worked with you before to then and see what patterning's coming back there. But two, step outside your own little sphere and maybe there's some little gems there of that little bit of a different way to come at it.
Love that. So good. Now, I want to jump into our fun questions quickly before we wrap up. So very first one of those is, Jessica, what is your favourite book for us to add to our Accelerator book list?
I would actually say it is The Way of the Spiritual Entrepreneur by Pauline Newen.
Oh, okay. Good one. Awesome. So we'll pop these in the show notes, by the way, everybody, along with, I better just touch on this quickly. Sensor.I.am, if anyone wants to check your website out, whereabouts can they go? We will put in the show notes, but for those that are just listening right now, can you direct them where they can go and how they navigate that site?
Of course. So it's Sensor.I.am, which is spelt Sensor.I.am, because we like to play with words.
I love it.
So you jump on Sensor.I.am.com and you can navigate your way to book a consultation, which is exactly what Sam did, to have that personal one-on-one experience. Or you navigate through the brands. There's a really great scent quiz that helps you to work out what category you might sit in, that helps you to navigate which ones to look at. or then follow along on the Instagram and the like to then see what takes your
Love
fancy.
it. And they all look amazing, by the way. So I love that. All of the bottles, you were pulling them out yesterday and I was like, oh, I want to love that one. Oh, I want to love that one. So they are absolutely stunning. So I'm really excited to get mine to try. And I love the process that you take people through. So if anyone's interested in that, definitely go to the website. We'll put it in the show notes as well in case anyone's having trouble getting there. And I highly recommend booking a consultation with Jessica and going through that process of just, smelling and learning and chatting. So next question. If you could have a superpower, any superpower, what would it be and why?
This one was so hard because I've always been a Star Wars fan and now I'm a Marvel fan as well. So it's a little bit like asking which Marvel fan is your favorite to have. And it's probably Doctor Strange in terms of that ability to, in a way, just morph and play with that quantum field and the multiverses and move between the multiverses.
Oh, that's a complex one. My goodness. People usually say fly, but I like that. No, it's good. My kids are right into Marvel. I've only watched a couple, so I actually don't know a whole lot about Doctor Strange, but I did promise my kids I'd watch another Marvel movie with them this weekend. So I'll probably be all up to date by the time we get to Monday next week. So next question, what is your favorite quote?
My favorite quote is a Yoda quote, which
I love Yoda quotes. All right, go for it.
Do or do not, there is no try.
Yes, definitely one of my very favorites. I love that. Awesome. And last question, if you could go back in time and say one thing to your past self, what would that be?
Oh, the places you'll go. It's one of my favorite Dr. Seuss books, and anytime I see it or read it, it's a great one about seeing the ups and downs. It's your great heights, and you'll see all the sights, and then the next page it goes, and some days you won't.
Yeah,
you'll be right down here in the waiting.
A lot of wisdom.
A lot of wisdom. Every time I remember doing a keynote for some high school students many, many years ago and reading a few parts from that because it's just so perfect to understand. Highest of heights, lowest of lows, that is just life. You pick yourself up and you keep on going because, the places you'll go.
Oh, I love it. So much wisdom in our friend Dr. Seuss.
Yes.
And on that note, I think that's a perfect place for us to finish up. But thank you so, so much for joining us today, Jessica, and sharing your wisdom and your passion with us. Really appreciate you and you sharing your stories. So thank you so much for coming on in today.
Thank you, Sam. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Beautiful. And thank you as well again to all of our beautiful listeners. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of our upcoming episodes. But again, thanks for tuning on in and we look forward to having you join us again on the podcast next week. But bye for now. Thank you for joining us in this episode of the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. If you love listening and you found that this was helpful for your direct selling business, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also check out the recommended video that's popped up on your screen right here. I look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye for now.